at the board level of the people who control this, having the universities report that up, I will never, ever be on board with that. Us laying out some data that everybody kind of reports to similarly, I get more comfortable with that.
To remind us of the data we used to give everybody this information today. Why was it okay today to show that, and then now we're questioning if that using it?
So that's interesting that you read. So for those of you who weren't there, the data was shared, aggregated up, it was big. And the map of the right. If that kind of data, we could see a collective impact. Are these collective efforts working? I think what the problematic here, as I heard Dr. Wilson bring, is tying it to one center. Well, let's look at them as a collective. If we look at them as a collective, that state assessment data come right back in. Right?
I have to examine those centers in terms of we could develop an assessment. Well, how many families have you talked to? How many students have you evaluated? How many school districts have implemented your recommendations? I mean, there's ways to not limit to a test.
And right, great point, Dana, and that's in the family section. You just articulated those outcomes. So let me go back to the assessment, because I think we're very passionate about this project. It's got to help our kids. If we look at that data by catchment area and as a state across all centers, that gives us some insight. Is that where you want to go?
Can I share my comment again? Because I think there was a misunderstanding of what the assessment that I was talking about was not the grades 3 through 8. But don't we give an early reading assessment for earlier childhood, kindergarten through 2nd grade that schools are supposed to give? And I don't see that here,
Yeah.
but I see a lot of the work that's happening. We don't still do that.
So the test you might be referring to, it's an optional test and it is not part of the state assessment system. And it is, it takes multiple years of standards and gives kids an opportunity to see if they can apply that and use it in a comprehension passage. That was not the intent of that test.
So I'm going to move. I'm going to does collect. We're going to get to that in January because we can't solve this today. But for the purposes of this plan, the assessment comes back in here as an aggregate across the state. That's the data we share this morning. In January, we're going to start digging into how do we get more precise data. I think that's a reasonable move. Look at all hands. Okay.
Take it down.
A couple comments and a suggestion here. First of all, I agree with the fact that persons that teach could carry the credential of those that teach. And I think that's huge. And we do it at the university all the time. Okay, I do believe in that. I mean, you don't want somebody teaching somebody that's in accounting, the accounting license, it doesn't carry the license. Okay, that being said, that's a different issue than this one. This says College of Ed, and that what we've been dealing with is the center. I think this should say center faculty. The center faculty should carry this credential at this point. I'm not saying that couldn't go further at some point, because there's other things. And when you hire people at the university level, you typically look for those pieces in their credential. It's a little more specific than show me these things. So particularly on professional licenses, in our nursing staff, they do those kinds of things. In our law, in certain other areas, they have to have demonstrated those particular skill sets. In this case, I do think if the center faculty are doing these things, they ought to carry those credentials. So that's where I'm getting with this right now. My suggestion would be, these are two pieces to it, but there's more to the credential than these two pieces. So really, the faculty at the center should carry the full credential. That's my thought.
So I think that helps to say the center staff. I also think it helps if we commit to, we know these two aren't perfect, but we're going to have conversation to figure out what we want to do. So another parking lot tool.
I think that the legislature would take a dim view if we have faculty in our colleges of education that have not completed letters but are in fact teaching our pre-service students. And that individuals, I mean, now think about it, we've got the L7 that are coming up with what the requirements are for the 6 credit hours for in-service teachers.
They're coming up with the content.
The content for it, yes, they're coming up with what that's going to be.
Design.
That essentially, under the premise, even if you've taken letters 1, letters 2, earned your certificate for both of them, you still need to demonstrate. So you may not need to take all 6 credit hours if you passed L1 and L2. It gets back to actually what Howard said. If we have folks that are in our colleges of education that have never taken letters 1, never taken letters 2, and yet they're the ones creating what these graduate credits should be. I think it is going to create a credibility issue. I think it will create a credibility issue that they are in fact going to be teaching in the College of Education our pre-service kids. It gets back to, for accounting, you want the professors that have earned their CPA. In dental school, you want the professors that have a license to practice. They've been there and so forth. Same thing with our colleges of education. And I'm just saying factually, that is going to be a question that the legislators will ask of this requirement, especially because it is tethered to funding. Funding for the credits to go to the universities and funding for the stipends to go to the teachers that are in service. The expectation is there should be that level. If Department of Ed is saying, and other states are saying, letters 1 and letters 2 are the gold standard, then we need to walk the walk and talk, not just talk the talk. I'm just saying, for us to ignore that.
Can I respond to that?
No, I know where you're going.
See how that feels? See how that feels? When she says no?
Is powerful for knowledge. Our expert friend, Dr. Reed Lyons, said it was the gold standard for knowledge. It's not about application. We will be in huge trouble if we stop at letters for faculty. They need to know more. They need to be experts. So I'm just putting that out there. Let's not walk into this thinking that these two tools here are where we stop this conversation, because we've got to have educators, faculty trained to teach teachers. So it's just keep in mind that letters does not do that. They need to have that knowledge. And Carolyn's telling us, look deeper and you'll see that. I understand we need a proxy for that. But I just want to say out loud, letters is great. It's a good start, but our faculty need a whole lot more than letters if we're really going to solve this problem. Right? So
Need letters.
they need the equivalent of.
No, but yes.
They need the equivalent of that course.
Right.
And what we want, because we don't know how to identify and collect that, we're looking for a proxy that says that.
So, wasn't there a real question a while ago, around really assessing the effectiveness of the centers?
Yes. Now, so that's why I think Howard, Dr. Smith's ad was good, because it pulls this back to the center staff, because they're going to impact it. So I'm going to recommend you agree that we change that to center faculty requirement, with the commitment that we're going to explore that and find a better tool that we're going to hold faculty to, and we're going to help you do it.
Can I offer something to think about between maybe now and January or whenever? Since one of the big emphasis of the centers is to provide support, consultation, a lot of that, some of that kind of fits into some of the elements around implementation science. That's why people need to go dig into that. And measuring basically the effectiveness of those types of models, that's a whole different way of measuring impact.
And that's exactly what Susan Myers is leading, that's that evaluation.
Yeah.
So we'll have that. So that's a good comment. Now, did I channel you okay, or did I?
We got a safety for you if you say no, because he is not being very focused right now.
I'll be quick. Molly, to your point, and I know we could argue this all day long, but I just want to say this. Person has a PhD in literacy and graduates in May of 2024 with a PhD in literacy from KU. Has a reading specialist license from the state. But you would say they're not qualified to be faculty.
Now, what I'm saying, becomes very difficult to say that I'm going to teach you and prepare you if I've never even gone through letters 1 or letters 2.
But see, I think that's the difference is if you have let's just say you go through a PhD program in the science of reading. You have a master's degree in the science of reading. Letters, maybe you don't do letters because you're not a classroom teacher, they're not gonna pay for letters training. You actually went and got a full degree in the science of reading. According to this plan here, they would not be qualified. Because you could have a PhD in it, but if you don't do this one little training program, that means you're not qualified.
What you're really saying is you're only going to be qualified to work at a center if you've taken letters 1 and letters 2. That's my point.
That's where we are today.
That's where we are today.
That topic will come back. And we need a gold standard for faculty. Letters is a gold standard for a K-12 education. It's not the gold standard for faculty. We need to find out what it is. Okay?
So, to help us. I think the most important thing for part of this with the centers, is we get started, and then we have a process that we continually improve them, or we're laying out these pieces. And so we're gonna put some people, and that's what we've lost over time. We gotta get moving.
Thank you. It's almost like we planned.
I know if I brought it in here and get awkward.
Where we started after. At your table, I want you to come back in 2 minutes and tell me the most important thing we do first and next. Of all these requirements, the most important thing we do first and next.
I'll try one. First one is. Center. So it's not as much, I'm the director, they're the boss. And then they start filling out like 3 positions in that. And then as you're moving forward, we're moving forward with training, we're moving forward with a lot of these things. I understand the other side, because there will be people, a lot of people want to do this, but I'm like, I'm gonna contract you. Yeah, so I come in June, you gotta start this process to get things out. Don't make, right? For good reason. So I can
Yeah. Like there's so much talk about what you want to work and all
that. He did her work and then I did fair. Kid didn't touch it. Didn't want it, that's not. Appreciate all this. I say partnership with TSB. Doesn't want
Let's go around and share first and next, but I want to hear from first from all tables and next from all tables. Okay, first and next. You already know. What's first? And Delaney, would you be sure and grab these for us? Thank you so much. First. You're first.
Okay, we said tie.
Make your case.
Okay, my case is that we need to work on the in-service teachers because they are the ones that are working with the pre-service teachers. But the pre-service teachers are the ones that are eager to do this work. They've noticed that from what he said, they've had 10 years of not being taught how the right way to learn how to do that. So they kind of work in conjunction with each other. So they're the ones that are gonna impact the students.
And then we had.
Is there more?
No, she put it.
Okay, all right.
And an ancillary topic on top of that is. Safety.
Okay, so the focus here has to be on the educator pillar. That's our most important pre-service and in-service. Did I summarize that right?
Yes.
Okay, first,
We need to finalize something and authorize you presenting it to K-Board. It's a document that you present to K-Board and they give you permission to present it to the legislature. And you are in a huge time crunch. And we also still probably need to talk about a budget. But also there was another thing we said.
Well, it's time for
all right. I'm slipping a little here. I didn't.
Very nice, okay.
Okay. You know, I appreciate that, but let me just say, this plan is going to land on the plane for this plan next Friday. And I'll bring you wide number on budget proposals, and you can see in the section we didn't talk about that, the 7 that brought a plan, I'm suggesting they will be the centers, but none of them are ready to move forward. So having them named in there is only to say, we're gonna work with those 7 institutions on what's required, and we'll be doing that work in the spring. So that's what's in there. That was, I appreciate that,
Like that work that they need to do that.
but that's,
So you're giving them more time. And I like that.
okay, all right, no. Equal opportunity. It's the guy's say.
Had a tie as well, but our 2 that we talked about were, getting the right people on the bus at each of the 7 centers and start them thinking around, statewide, what are each of them commonly going to do in order to put things in place? So, right people on the bus. And that's,
Is the second thing tied to the first?
kind of, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is, it is. And then figuring out, how the centers are going to interact with school districts to support the service.
So the right people help us figure that out. Okay, yeah. Right, let's go.
A little more on that, like, starting with the right people and start centers rolling.
I know their tenants start later in the spring, if they don't get the right person up front, start each center.
So the director position.
Yeah, they can start figuring out their way ahead.
Okay, all right, first, second.
I think we talked about, focusing in on the different stakeholders, students, families, school, the district, the state, and then thinking about what are the deliverables for each of them? What do we want students to have? What do we want families to have? What do we want? So just thinking about the different stakeholder categories to stay focused on, what are the goals to help support those particular levels?
Okay, thank you. You follow the rules.
Wow, so someone's gonna, teacher, when do the teacher evaluations come?
You have next. You have a next, move, next action, next, no, next.
No, it's time.
Plan, plan. You know where to go? So reinforcing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we gave our first and next. Yeah, we just did them both.
Okay. Did you have a next?
Sorry.
Dennis, mine.
No, I just want to throw out the biggest thing that I see happening that will be impactful is the coaching piece.
Yes.
Finding them, the training them, and getting them into the classroom
Yes.
to help the teacher. I think that's huge.
That ties a lot to what.
Yes, it really does. Stay with credit.
For today. I know the process was hard today. It was hard and we did lean into, we wanted to wordsmith some. But I think we're getting a clearer vision of what we're going to expect. So I appreciate that. I just want you to reflect on that over the last 5 months, just how far we've come and how much we are moving. It's really good work. And we've got to get it into the field so we can have, that's what this is about. I think it's, here's what you can expect from the team. We're going to go through and look at the suggested tuning that you did to the document. We'll send that out to you. We've got a virtual meeting scheduled with you on your calendar for Friday at 9 o'clock. In that, you can expect to see a real broad budget number that's based on analysis that I did of the positions that the universities suggested. But it's pared way down to what we have to get started. And so this conversation that we ended with is helpful to know what does get started mean, so I can go back and look at it. So you'll get a revised plan, you'll get this high level budget. There'll be much more work we need to do after the first of the calendar year on this, but this says we have a plan. Here's how we're. So I congratulate you on that. And that will be an action item. So I hope you can join. We'll walk through the changes and I'm going to be asking you to recommend a plan. That plan will be then turned around the following week, which would be like the week of the 25th. I have to submit that to the Board of Regents for their consideration. But next week I'll actually be doing a first read of this plan based on your changes to the Board of Regents, and then they will approve the plan in December. So we're hitting our timeline. Plan is good. It's good. I congratulate you on that. It's not perfect, but we're committed to continuing to learn and figure out how to make it stronger. And I think our universities, I just have to say, they are in the boat with us. They want to do this work. They are excited and enthused. And we're going to push to refine and make sure that they are responding to what's needed. But we are building this coalition. We've got people now working on this that haven't even thought about a role in this space. So I thank you for today. Thank you again to the team that led the presentation this morning. I know some of you are staying for dinner. I think Munich signed up too, so we'll head back to the convention. But thank you for your work and your guidance. tolerating me as your taskmaster. But messy process, but we're getting really good out.
Thank you.
If there was anybody else that would like to be on the editing team, please let me know. I've got people, thank you, Judy and Lindsay, who volunteers. If there's anybody else that would like to be part of editing that document.
Thank you. But Judy, what we'll do is we'll refine the document and we'll get it to you. And I'll do all the internet format stuff. All right. So thank you all very much. Have a wonderful day. Oh, stickers. Thank you. Thank you. We were 8.25 after me. Really climbing. So thank you for your stickers. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. We do it. We do it. Excited.
Yeah. Yeah.